In the spring of 1502, somewhere in the Indian Ocean, a Portuguese captain stared across unfamiliar waters with a single sheet of parchment locked inside a wooden chest below his cabin. It wasn't covered in gold, jewels, or royal seals, yet kings would have traded fortunes to possess it. If it fell into the wrong hands, entire empires could rise or disappear. This was no ordinary map. It revealed coastlines that most of Europe didn't even know existed, hidden harbors where fleets could resupply, dangerous reefs capable of destroying an armada, and the sea routes that connected the richest markets on Earth. In an age when the oceans were still filled with mystery, information was more valuable than treasure itself. At the dawn of the 16th century, the world's balance of power was changing faster than ever before. For centuries, spices such as pepper, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg had traveled from Asia through long chains of merchants before finally reaching Europe. Every transaction made them more expensive, and whoever controlled those trade routes became unimaginably wealthy. Portugal understood this better than anyone. Under the leadership of Prince Henry the Navigator decades earlier, Portuguese sailors had pushed farther down the coast of Africa than any Europeans before them. Their voyages were dangerous, but each expedition added another piece to a growing collection of charts. Captains carefully recorded winds, currents, hidden islands, and dangerous shoals. These observations were copied by royal cartographers into increasingly accurate maps, each one treated as a closely guarded state secret. The Portuguese crown understood something revolutionary. Gold could be stolen, ships could sink, armies could lose battles, but knowledge, especially geographical knowledge, could reshape the future. Every expedition returned with new discoveries. Each corrected coastline or newly charted harbor made Portugal stronger, while leaving its rivals blind. Maps became military weapons disguised as pieces of parchment. Then came Vasco da Gama's historic voyage around Africa to India in 1498. For the first time, Europe possessed a direct sea route to the riches of Asia. Pepper, silk, porcelain, gemstones, and countless luxuries no longer depended entirely on traditional overland trade networks. Portugal suddenly held the key to an economic revolution, but secrets never remain hidden forever. Across Europe, rival kingdoms watched Portugal's growing wealth with growing suspicion. Spanish ambassadors demanded answers. Venetian merchants feared financial ruin. Ottoman officials recognized a dangerous threat to their own trade networks. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. How had Portugal reached India? The answer wasn't simply courage or better ships, it was the maps. Inside guarded royal archives in Lisbon, elite cartographers transformed sailors' journals into incredibly detailed nautical charts known as portolan maps. Every harbor, current, and coastal landmark was carefully drawn by hand. Access was tightly controlled. Unauthorized copies were forbidden. Sailors were sworn to secrecy, and some historians believe severe punishment awaited anyone caught leaking geographical information. Yet the greater the secret became, the more valuable it was to steal. Soon, merchants, diplomats, spies, and even sailors themselves began searching for ways to obtain copies. Hidden payments changed hands in crowded ports. Quiet meetings took place in taverns after sunset. Trusted navigators were approached with offers of unimaginable wealth. The race to possess the world's most valuable map had begun, and it would ignite one of history's earliest intelligence wars. One fought not with cannons, but with ink, parchment, and secrets capable of changing the fate of entire civilizations. The first cracks in Portugal's wall of secrecy appeared not on the open sea, but inside its own ports. Lisbon had become one of the busiest cities in Europe, attracting merchants, shipbuilders, scholars, and sailors from every major kingdom. With so many foreign eyes watching every arriving vessel, protecting secrets became almost impossible. Among those paying close attention was the Republic of Venice. For centuries, Venetian merchants had grown rich by controlling the flow of Asian goods into Europe through Mediterranean trade routes. Portugal's new ocean passage threatened that entire system. Every Portuguese ship arriving directly from India meant fewer profits flowing through Venetian markets. Venice responded the only way it could. It built an intelligence network. Agents posing as merchants questioned sailors in crowded taverns. Shipbuilders quietly examined foreign vessels in harbor. Translators copied travel journals whenever they could. Even fragments of information a coastline sketched on scrap paper or a captain mentioning favorable winds were gathered and pieced together like parts of a giant puzzle. Spain faced an even greater dilemma. Although the Treaty of Tordesillas had divided newly discovered lands between Spain and Portugal, borders drawn across oceans meant little if one kingdom possessed better knowledge of the seas. Spanish explorers desperately needed accurate charts to compete for influence in Asia and beyond. The demand for maps became so intense that an underground market emerged across Europe. Secret copies changed hands in candle-lit rooms. Cartographers accepted enormous bribes to reproduce restricted charts. Captured ships were searched not only for gold or cargo, but for navigation books, sailing instructions, and precious maps hidden inside barrels or beneath floorboards. One of the most famous examples involved Alberto Cantino, an agent working for the Duke of Ferrara in Italy. Around 1502, Cantino managed to acquire an astonishing Portuguese world map through secret negotiations in Lisbon. The map revealed newly discovered coastlines in Africa, Asia, and the Americas with remarkable accuracy. It was carefully rolled, hidden, and smuggled out of Portugal before eventually reaching Italy. Its arrival shocked Europe's political elite. For the first time, rulers outside Portugal could see the true scale of Portuguese exploration. Coastlines that had existed only in royal archives suddenly became visible to foreign courts. Every harbor, every island, and every route represented opportunity and danger. The Portuguese crown was furious. Officials tightened security around mapmakers and restricted access to navigational records even further. Cartographers worked behind guarded doors, and updated charts were circulated only among trusted captains preparing for official expeditions. Geography had become a matter of national security, but once knowledge escapes, it is almost impossible to imprison again. Copies inspired more copies. Each stolen chart allowed explorers to travel farther, verify coastlines, and create even better maps of their own. Information multiplied across Europe faster than any government could stop it. Soon, the competition spread beyond trade. Maps guided military campaigns, determined colonial claims, and shaped diplomatic negotiations. A single, accurately drawn coastline could decide where a fortress would be built, where merchants would establish ports, or where future wars would begin. The race was no longer about discovering the world. It had become a race to control it, and every new expedition carried two priceless cargoes, valuable goods below deck, and priceless knowledge locked inside the captain's charts. As the 16th century unfolded, Europe's greatest powers realized that the true prize of exploration was never the ships themselves, it was the information they brought home. Every successful voyage expanded humanity's understanding of the world, but it also shifted the balance of global power. A newly charted coastline could redirect trade, justify territorial claims, or expose an empire's greatest weakness. The Portuguese monopoly did not last forever. Spanish navigators refined their own charts after voyages across the Pacific. Dutch merchants, determined to break Iberian dominance, established the Dutch East India Company and invested heavily in navigation, cartography, and intelligence gathering. English explorers followed close behind, combining improved maps with increasingly powerful naval fleets. What had once been a closely guarded Portuguese secret became the foundation of a worldwide race for empire. Maps grew more accurate with every expedition, blank spaces slowly disappeared. Islands, once surrounded by myth, were measured and named. Dangerous reefs were marked. Reliable wind patterns were recorded. Seasonal ocean currents became predictable highways connecting continents. Sailors who once relied on rumor could now navigate with remarkable confidence. Yet every improvement also increased competition. Ports that had once welcomed foreign traders became heavily fortified. Strategic islands became naval bases. Merchant vessels sailed with armed escorts, knowing that pirates and rival nations understood exactly where valuable cargo would pass. Geography no longer simply described the world, it determined who controlled it. Behind many of these advances stood anonymous cartographers whose names rarely appeared in history books. Working by candlelight, they compared sailors' journals, corrected measurements, erased old mistakes, and transformed scattered observations into detailed charts that shaped the future of nations. Their work demanded extraordinary precision. A single misplaced island or an incorrect coastline could send an expedition hundreds of miles off course, costing fortunes and countless lives. Over time, the secrecy surrounding maps began to fade. The invention of improved printing techniques allowed geographical knowledge to spread more rapidly than ever before. Universities, merchants, and navigators gained access to information that had once been reserved for kings alone. Knowledge was becoming impossible to contain. By the 17th century, the world's oceans looked very different from the mysterious waters that had terrified earlier generations. The greatest unknowns had become established trade routes. Empires expanded across continents using charts that were built upon generations of discoveries, many of them copied, stolen, improved, and shared, despite every attempt to keep them hidden. The secret map that every empire wanted was never just one piece of parchment. It represented something far more powerful, the belief that understanding the world could be more valuable than conquering it by force. History often celebrates the explorers who crossed oceans, the admirals who won great battles, and the monarchs who claimed distant lands. But behind nearly every voyage stood an unseen weapon, carefully drawn lines of ink on parchment, created by people who understood that knowledge could travel farther than any army. In the end, the world's most valuable treasure was never gold buried beneath the earth or spices carried across the sea. It was information, and the empires that mastered it didn't simply discover the world. For a time, they controlled it.